Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
All right, let's see if we've got good audio here. Hello, hello, hello. Ha! I can hear myself on loop, so I'm going to turn that off.
I think it's working, mate.
Oh, is it you, maybe? Who's
No,
doing that?
That wasn't me.
It wasn't you?
No.
Oh. Okay. I can hear myself on loop, so I'm going to turn that off. I think it's working, mate. Oh, is it you, maybe? Who's doing that?
That wasn't me. Who is that, John?
I don't know.
John?
Someone's listening to us through it, and it's coming back through their mic.
Who's doing that? Who is that, John?
I don't know.
John?
Someone's listening to us through it, and it's coming back through their mic.
It looks like it's Andrew Hicks, according to my readout.
Oh, Andrew, do you
There we
have the
go.
link up and running? Hey,
That's
all
better.
right, fantastic.
What were you doing,
Well,
Andrew? What were
I
you
don't
doing?
know what I don't know what Andrew was doing. Hey, everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Adobe video CHiNWAG. We have a few people tonight that are part of tonight's episode or show, I guess we could call it. The main theme is remote workflows, and we have some guest speakers from Black and White Real Estate Media. And we've got Jimmy back from the pilot. Jimmy's going to be co-hosting as well. So I'll just bring up the 4 screens here. Everybody give a wave.
G'day, everybody.
G'day. So there's someone else from Black and White Real Estate Marketing, the CMO. Jackie is in the chat, and she will be able to answer questions that relate to her to the best of her ability in order to keep the conversation going. So one of the big things we want to make sure that people are doing when they join in the live side of this is use that chat area. So we've got a couple of other people, part of the team, that are going to curate some of these questions and then make sure that we hit all of the little things that everybody wants to get answers to. Even if we can't answer it straight away, we will have reference of it and we can do something with it later on. So, hey, how are you going, Jimmy?
Fantastic, mate. Thanks for bringing me back. Episode 1. Here we go. Rock and roll.
Guy, how you doing?
Not so bad, mate. Not so bad. Only in lockdown stage 3 over here, so living it up.
Oh, so you're in the outer burbs of Melbourne. You're not quite Melbourne.
That's right.
Ah, lucky duck. And Andrew, how you doing, mate?
We're good up in Sydney, and we are free.
You are free.
Jealousy ripples through my brain.
I was going to bring my mask, but I forgot. Jimmy, did you bring your mask on your mic this time? No.
Yeah, it's on there.
It is?
Yeah, I don't know how to get it in the shot. I don't have enough reach, but it's still wearing the mask, so I'm COVID safe.
Cool. All right, who we got
Thank
on?
you, Daniel Andrews.
Who we got on the chat here? Let's just make sure everyone says at least a hi. I can see we've got 20 people that
Premier Pros here. Hey,
jumped
buddy.
into it. Paul, how you doing? We're going to get you on here one day. You got plenty of good things to share, I'm sure. Who's Hexall Deviant? Ooh, Hexall Deviant.
Hexall Deviant. I know that tag.
Sick tag.
Oh. Lucas, g'day. All right, we've got a few people in here, but I really would like everyone to...
Cousin of Hexual feeling.
jump in. Now, it's that hour of the day where I've had a massive week. I'm sure you guys have too, so don't mind me if I sit back on a bevy as we go through tonight's show. So I think what we'll do, let's get started with our guests, and they can talk about themselves a little bit, and then we'll get into the concepts of what it is they've been doing. They've been doing a lot of things over the last 3 years. Is that right?
Yeah, 3.5. Yep.
Okay. And team projects has been a central core to the way that you set up and structured the business to take advantage of remote workflows. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, sweet. Well, what I'll do, I'll just bring you guys up and you can introduce yourselves. How about Guy Lepage? How about you introduce yourself, and we'll let you guys sort of go from here.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm Guy, the CEO of BWRM, for short, Black and White Real Estate Marketing. Yeah, so we basically do content for real estate agents. So any property that comes up for sale, we shoot video, we take stills, we do all that sort of stuff. 3.5 years ago, there wasn't really a provider for us for video editing in the way that we wanted it done, certainly not scalable. So we sort of set out to create our own scalable, high quality solution. And then this is probably where Andrew comes in. He built it. I just sort of say, hey, this is a good idea. And Andrew does all the hard work, really. Is that right?
You're a bit more involved than that. You have good ideas. So yeah, I guess I'm the CTO, and I make Guy's ideas happen.
That's a pretty good way to describe what you do.
So yeah, we basically try and streamline the processes and make things as easy for everyone along the chain, really. So that's from the clients to the members to the editors, and then obviously back again. Yeah.
So Andrew, is your experience a video editor?
No, I started doing helping Jackie out with the drone. So I was flying the drone, taking photos, video using the drone. Then started helping out with editing because Jax was sort of swamped with the editing. So I got into iMovie. Then we were some of the first people to start using the After Effects to sort of show outlines and things for properties in the real estate world. So I sort of learned how to do that. And then through After Effects, I learned expressions and I kind of got hooked with expressions. And then that was my gateway into coding, and just sort of kept going from there and just kept finding another door to open. And yeah, I'm still going.
So Guy was your drug dealer and you just kind of jumped in and said expressions of my heroin.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he's not allowed to talk to customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, editors never. Not client side at all.
No.
So
Okay.
As a coding background though, you didn't have, you just kind of taught yourself, or was it?
Yeah, completely self-taught. So yeah, I'd say I started with really basic expressions and went from there and then started building stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So how about you guys give us a little bit of an overview of what your business model is, and then we'll go into the weeds of, you know, how you make the most of the way that your business model works, because it's a little bit different. It's not the kind of thing that I've heard of many times. So Guy, you want to try and explain it a bit maybe?
Yeah, so I mean, when we created this business, we sort of looked at it in two different ways. So it's sort of independents on one side and sort of big companies and franchises on the other. And we sort of wanted to take the best of both of those parts and put them together. So what we really do is we have people who license our brand and access our effectively post-production system. So we run a large sort of scaled post-production system that lots of these independents who are then branded as us tap into. So basically, you know, I think today we might have 26 or 27 real estate marketing businesses around the country. And yeah, they all tap into our same supply chain effectively for their video production, their floor plan production, and their image production. And then different to a franchise, I suppose we don't lock people into ongoing contracts. Our bond is, you know, people will use us for as long as we're giving them value, I suppose. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been a bit of a journey, and generally the way we work is with the ethos photographer first. So we try to look at what the person on the ground needs and then work out a way to make it and build that that solution, which is actually what led us to this video editing solution that we're in now. We could see that people were shooting one video maybe a day, sitting up at night doing the editing. And that was really, you know, maybe two if they were really keen. And that was sort of as far as they could get. And then our market, you know, it's fast turnaround, low margin. So to put on an editor it's almost a zero-sum game a lot of the time. So the way that we sort of made this work was, well, we thought really in reverse. We thought that if we created something that would allow photographers to shoot more, there would be demand for more video content, basically. And that did turn out to be true in the end. And that's been really good for a lot of our members because, they've exponentially built the video part of their business since we sort of set this up.
I think like you look at Guy this week, I think on one of the days, one of the good weather days down in Melbourne, you shot what, 6 videos in a day?
Yeah, so I shot 6 real estate videos on Monday, and then I had them delivered on Tuesday morning by 9
It
o'clock.
just wouldn't have been even close to feasible a few years ago.
And what are you
No,
shooting on, Guy?
Blackmagic.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the Pocket 6K, but just shooting in ProRes, not trying to move raw files around or anything.
Who wants to do that?
I don't have the computing power to even look at them.
But that's an amazing, I mean, in terms of turnaround, that is absolutely phenomenal. And there is, I'm sure, many companies out there who are fast turnaround, especially with a lot of the government and corporate content that needs to be turned so quickly because it's all part of the Facebook cycle. Then you are, sounds like you're all over it.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous turnaround, really. I mean, I'll send my edits off and I'll have them back before I go to bed. So I can proof something tonight that I shot this morning and uploaded through our system this afternoon. It's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the trick with it is I don't actually need to touch it, which is kind of nice. So, but I can using team projects. There you go, John.
You don't need to plug so hard. It's just a learning exercise. Okay, so Andrew, do you have another way of sort of describing the way the business model works from your side as the CTO and the infrastructure that you've kind of created over that time, and sort of where it's at, and then we'll work into you then being able to, we'll go into the screen recordings that you've done of the actual workflow itself, and then people can kind of see it, and then they can start asking some questions around, how you've gone about doing it, and we'll leave it to the audience to start maybe pulling in their side of things. So Andrew, why don't you just give us a bit of an explanation of your side of how things work?
Yeah, so I think probably the first thing is that this definitely didn't come out as a fully fledged process when we were first talking to you, probably three and a half years ago. We were a long way from where we are now. So I think we started off and we learned a lot of lessons along the way and sort of implemented things because we are relatively small. We were able to implement things very quickly and make changes to our processes, our systems. And obviously because it was a startup as well, the people that we were working with were, I guess, relatively accommodating and helpful as well. So I think probably one of the key parts that we introduced was a briefing system. As I guess any creative knows, you can only create a project to the quality as the information that you're given. So we found that the briefing system was really key to allow the editors to create a product that would then get back to the member and then to the client, and it was the actual product that they wanted. So that briefing system started really early, but has been fleshed out quite significantly. And then we've also started using that data to automate a lot of our editing processes. So it's all data driven. So that has a massive effect both in terms of the actual editing time, but also the consistency and quality of the information is far superior than if you had editors just sort of manually copying things from a brief. So we obviously have a lot of data in terms of agent names, agent phone, agent emails, addresses, all of which has to be character perfect. So imagine even if you're copy and pasting, you can make mistakes. It's pretty easy. Whereas if you automate those things, they're almost guaranteed to be accurate as long as the input was correct, which isn't always. But it's quicker. It means there are fewer changes likely. If you're just like Guy was saying, that he almost doesn't even have to look at the videos that he gets back. They're pretty much good to go. And say at the odd time there might be some changes, but I think that's the other things that we've attacked it from that side. If we don't have to make changes, then it saves everybody's time, and obviously the client is much happier as well. So yeah, briefing was a big part, and then everything else has sort of, I think, flowed on from there.
Yeah.
And then we've got all the automation that's going on in Premiere, and then sort of managing jobs and that sort of thing throughout the edit team. But,
So
yeah.
talking about the automation in Premiere, that's a lot of raw data that you're actually pulling in to the system. Did you build that integration yourselves, or did you actually outsource that to somebody else and then come back and fine tune it in-house?
I built all of that from scratch.
Right.
So we created essentially what we call a dashboard, which and it started in a very simple manner, in that it was basically creating bins and organizing assets into the bins within Premiere to keep everything nice and clean. And from there, again, it's just sort of evolved as we've gone. So now we're creating team projects, inviting members, editors, all the way through. It's creating sequences, it's importing assets, it's importing essential graphics, it's filling out essential graphics, it's organizing the entire project so that it's ready to go for the editor. So basically they press a button at the start of the job, and within about 60 seconds, all of that is done automatically. The information should be 100% correct. And this was a process that usually was taking sort of 10, 15 minutes. So you think you've comfortably pulled back your edit times just by using that feature. And then also reduce the time that you might need to spend on edits or changes later on. Makes it far easier for the QA teams. Streamlines the whole process.
I think now it's probably a good time to
segue.
start showing some stuff. Yeah. Okay, so the first video that you wanted to show, do you want to just sort of frame that before I hit play on that one?
Yeah, so this first one just shows that setup process that I just described. It shows the custom dashboard, which you'll see in the top left of the workspace. Hopefully the resolution's okay, so you can sort of see what's going on. If not, the audio does sort of tell you what's going on. But yeah, I think the key thing that I really wanted for this is that this is real time. There is not a cut in this video. I don't think, maybe towards the end, but essentially the first minute and a half is real time. So that's how quick all of that actually takes. And then the rest is sort of showing what's actually happened.
Yeah, cool. All right. So I'll just get this set up and we can watch it out.
The job list drop down in the top left shows all of the jobs for the last 2 months. The first step is to select a job. I select the brief. This shows all of the instructions for this job below.
Yeah.
I select the brand and then select Get Started. For the next 60 seconds, everything you see is completely automated. This automation will create a team project, invite members, admin, and editors to the project, create and organize bins, create a sequence, import assets and essential graphics, and place them at specific time points with their data. Finally, I'll be prompted to import any footage or assets. This entire process happens automatically in 60 seconds by the click of a single button based on the data on the brief. The bins have been created and organized. The sequence has been created and named. The logo animation is being imported, organized, and placed at the correct time code in the timeline. All of the essential graphics are being placed on the correct channel at the correct time code in the timeline, and then having their data automatically completed. I'm selecting some video footage to import and organize into the footage bin. I'm checking that everyone has been correctly invited to the team project. The next step is for me to drag the footage to the timeline in the bottom center of the screen. In the top center of the screen is a logo animation. This has been automatically set to the correct brand and has been automatically added to the correct timecode in the timeline. This is a title essential graphic. This is automatically imported, placed, and completed based on the data in the brief. The title is editable and can be customized via the Essential Graphics panel on the right-hand side. If you look at the program panel in the top center, note how these changes are responsive. When I change the content, the width of the background automatically changes to fit the new content. These are two lower thirds essential graphics. These have been automatically imported, placed, and completed based on the data in the brief. If I remove the agent name from the Essential Graphics panel, you can see the lower third instantly responds by removing the agent name and reducing the height of the design. If I then add a very long name, you can see it responds by adding the name back in and adjusting the width of the design to match the text. You can control what data is editable whilst also preventing information or elements from being edited, which helps editors stick to brand guidelines. This is a property icons essential graphic, used to illustrate some of the features of a property such as number of bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. These have been automatically imported, placed, selected, and completed based on the data in the brief. I can edit the visibility and content of the icons using the Essential Graphics panel on the right. I can remove and add icons via checkboxes. I can also change the visible icon via a simple slider. This shouldn't be necessary as everything has been automated based on the brief, but allows some flexibility for the editor. This is the end plate essential graphic. This has been automatically imported, placed, and completed based on the data in the brief. The image used is based on the data input, so if the agent name is changed, a different image is displayed. If you draw your attention to the Essential Graphics panel on the right, note how when I change the name to a different agent, the name and image updates in the program panel. Then, when I change the name back, they return to the original. I can also select the number of agents via a slider in the Essential Graphics panel. This specific design allows you to choose between 1 and 2 agents, but we have designs that cater for various numbers and layouts.
That was sick.
All right, pretty good. Pretty good stuff. So I must apologise. We were just trying a couple different things there with the audio. It did drop out a tiny bit. I don't know whether you want to share that maybe there's a space for these videos to be watched later on as well. I don't know. It's up to you whether you want to share this
You
publicly.
can blog them or keep them secret.
But I think it dropped out only just for a little bit there. So there's a question that came up there, really, really important question. How do you share the dashboard with the editors?
It's basically just a folder like any other sort of piece of code or a website. Yeah, so obviously I work very closely with our editors, and I send basically a folder that's zipped up on Google Drive to Max. He downloads it and then he puts it where it needs to go. And yeah.
So it's like a script and you bring it in as a script, for example.
Yes, but it's a lot of scripts that interconnect, I guess.
Yeah, okay. So how is there is there an installation process that goes along with getting it to run within Premiere?
Yeah, there is. So there's a lot of technical stuff that you can either have unsigned panels or you can have them signed, and then that's a separate process. But yeah, it's probably, I don't know if it's worth going into here.
Yeah. I'm just interested to see how it actually integrates, because the integration part, having worked with some API development stuff myself, and I'm still getting my head around it, is how to get it to work. It's one thing on your system if you're playing with it and developing it, making it work, but then if you're trying to get it remotely to somebody else to get them to get it to work so that it kind of marries up is a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah, it's been a work in progress for sure. But say I got a Windows laptop, so I can test on both Mac and Windows. And then we've got another Mac here. So usually if I can get it to work on all 3 of those, then I'm pretty happy that it's going to work elsewhere. But say that's definitely not always the case.
It works on my system. That's a plus. If I can make it work,
yeah.
anyone can.
Although you tell me it's broken and then it works when we screen share.
Yeah, obviously.
Always the way.
Yeah.
Always the way.
But yeah, there's obviously a lot of compatibility issues around different machines and that sort of thing. We've definitely had to work through that.
Yeah.
And figure that out.
So there's been a few people that have said they're keen to see the videos again, and it looks like Jackie's jumped on the thread there to just let them know if anybody wants to see them to email her. She's put her email details admin@bwrm.com.au. So yeah, I think a few people very interested in the way that works. Now we do have a few more videos. They're not as long as that.
Much shorter.
Much shorter. So yeah, why don't you set up what the second one's about?
Okay, so the second one is basically about music, and I think probably everyone here has sort of had this issue, but we found that every so often we were accidentally using the same piece of music for the same client. And this meant that obviously the client then had to send the video back. It had to be re-edited to a different song. So you're almost sort of duplicating the editing process, which obviously isn't ideal. So we created a music database, and every time a track is used in a video for us, the editor presses a button in the dashboard that adds a record to our database, which records the date, the member email, the agent name, agency name, and the song title. And then at the start or towards the beginning of a project, the editor selects which song they want to use, usually based on what's said in the brief. So we have options in the brief around whether you want a fast, slow, upbeat, whatever sort of song. They select song, and then they check the database to see if that song has been used recently by that agent or whoever. And if it has been recently used, then they don't use it and they go pick another one. So that's pretty much taken the instance of us using the incorrect music or music that's been used recently down to zero.
All right. Well, we'll play the video, and then we'll get to some of the questions that I'm seeing pop up. There's a few hot topics here, so we'll play the video, then we'll loop back on the questions.
This is the music tab. The first step is to enter search parameters. I'm going to use a member name and an agency name, but I could also use an agent name, music title, or an address. I'll select Submit Music Search. A table populates below showing all the matches with our music database. I'll demonstrate it with another agency.
Right. So that's pretty powerful stuff there with that particular workflow. There's a lot of metadata that you've captured in there and you keep track of. And I haven't worked in the industry for a while, but that's a pretty known thing. Is you always end up with a templated sort of way of working, hitting the same music repeatedly, and then cross customers probably realizing that they're either getting the same track in different videos of theirs, or they've heard it on a competitor's one or someone else's thing.
Yeah, always.
Super handy.
Yeah. So we found out. I think probably the other thing that I didn't mention is that all happens within Premiere, so you don't even have to leave Premiere. It's all there. You've got the song in your track, and you're checking it. Yeah, and it's all. Yeah, you don't even have to leave Premiere.
So where's the database live?
That's on our cloud.
Okay, so it just links back to your cloud database, which basically updates every time you're doing that stuff.
Yep. And then the record goes back to our database, and then it comes back when you read it. So
Okay, that's a good segue to some of these questions that have popped up here.
I was
So
going to say, do you want me to jump in on that?
Yeah,
one?
jump in.
Do editors need access to shared storage for the common assets that the project uses, or I'm assuming it's a self-contained kind of parcel? I mean, how does that work?
So we have shared storage. So we use Google Drive. At the moment, we did try using Creative Cloud. Used it for 4 years probably now, because it was a bit flaky at the time. It's probably, I have heard it's very good now, but we just sort of got stuck with Google Drive.
This is why you don't talk to customers, by the way.
Cheers.
It's all good.
Yeah, so we use Google Drive, and we have our members create a shared folder there that they share with our editors, and then footage gets added in there, and then any assets that editors add, which end up like essential graphics or photos. Whatever else they need to add gets chucked back
So
in.
they have access to that physical drive space, which they can just pull the stuff down from, which is kind of cool. It actually leads into another question, which is how is that footage managed when you're bringing it in? Guy, you were saying that you shoot on the Blackmagic 6K and you're doing it in ProRes. Is that transcoded or before you send it up, or do you just send up the raw files?
Yeah, so Andrew's built a little converter for us, which effectively just belts out proxies. And so it'll be edited as proxy. And then using Google Drive and using FileStream, basically what happens is when the assets come back in, because the file path's identical, regardless of the system you're on, it'll generally just automatically link on my system. So we don't have any dramas at all.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's something we were talking about last week with the team projects, is that the media mapping is something that a few people sort of struggle with, and it's tough to get your head around to start with. But once you've done a few, I think that's what we sort of tell all of our guys. Once you've done a few, it makes sense. You just
fall into line. It's funny.
Yeah.
You're scared until you have a go, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, why wasn't I doing this before?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just jump in, do a few, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. There's
Pretty
one
smart
more.
too. Oh, sorry. It tends to learn as well. So once you've mapped it a few times, you don't have to do it again.
Yeah, it does. It's really good. And that's something I want to raise in the questions sort of this particular point here is next week, what we're thinking we'll do is we'll actually do a real hands-on walkthrough of team projects. So if you're keen to make that what we do next week's 40-minute session on, we'll actually start inviting people who want to be invited into team projects, and we'll get our hands dirty. So we'll talk about the points, and then just let us know what kind of things you're interested in the chat here, and we'll help use that to curate what we do for next week. Was there one more question there, or am I misreading?
Yeah, it's worthwhile there. It says, do the assets have to live on the cloud, or can someone have it localized?
There's no reason they couldn't be localized. So that so we have FileStream, which sort of has it in the cloud, and then it localizes the version as well, so it syncs up. That's basically how that works.
Which is the same system as Creative Cloud, but and I can say that I was a bit iffy about Creative Cloud syncing. File syncing early on was a bit, I run all my After Effects. People are running off the cloud at the moment, and they're syncing, and I can open the projects and do stuff. They can do stuff, and it all seems to work fine. But I know where you're going with that.
Yeah. All right, so
we had another video to show, didn't we, John?
We got a third video. We got 5 videos in total. So what's the third video about?
So this is batch nesting. So in the last 3 years or so that we've been editing videos, one of the largest changes that we've seen in the industry has been the increased use of drones and gimbals. So the majority of the drone and gimbal shots need to be warp stabilized, and then they're often speed ramped. And obviously to do that in Premiere, you then need to be able to nest the clips. So with some of our jobs, you might have 5, 10, 15 clips that need to be nested. And usually the process is to sort of either try and create keyboard shortcuts, or if you're going to click, you're clicking each time to try and nest each one of those clips. And if you have a better way of doing that, let us know, because that'd be great. But in order to try speed that up, I created a dashboard button that basically takes all of the selected clips in the timeline and nests them individually. So you can then apply your warp stabilization and speed ramps. And so it basically automates a process that would be maybe 3 or 4 clicks each clip into 1 click for as many clips as selected. So you could have hundreds theoretically.
All right, well, let's take a look at it.
This is the Utilities tab. I'm going to select multiple individual clips at separate points in the timeline. Now I'll select Batch Nest. This will create individual nested sequences of multiple selected clips and organize them into the nests bin. This would work for any number of clips. All of this happens with the click of a single button.
Super quick, that one.
And they've all been organized into a nice folder called nests.
Yeah. Cool. Has anyone got any questions on that sort of stuff or anything else that you've seen so far?
I was going to say, does that apply to warp and or any other parameters, or it just nests it?
No, that just nests them ready for warping and speed
So
ramping.
you have to go back and jump back into the original nest and warp it in the original clip, and then it obviously ripples through, yeah?
Yeah, so you could do that. Yeah, accessing some of the effects and stuff is a bit tricky. So yeah, we'll get
I
there.
think the main reason we haven't done that though is because we've got not very good computers.
That's true.
so we try not to do too much stuff like that in the background.
Yeah. And you can, if you get too effects heavy and start adding adjustment layers and 16 of those, then things start to slow down a fair bit. I mean, I'm assuming your drone footage is coming in at 4K.
No. Well, some of it is, but most of it would be 1080. Again, most of our stuff is going out for web content, so we don't really need to shoot in 4K or anything like that. So most of it will be 1080.
Sweet. Let's move on to video 4.
Yeah, so this is the feedback loop, and this is sort of a bit more of a work in progress, this one. So we've obviously tried to streamline the whole process, and part of that is drastically reducing the number of changes and re-edits that are required. But there's always going to be that case when a member needs to have changes made. And at the moment, most of the discussions around that are held via email or Skype. So I've been creating a dashboard button that will link into the back end of our website, which will allow members to basically add a time-coded comment to the video or export the data. Then we'll grab the data from within Premiere, as in the editor, and then that data will populate markers in the timeline and fill out the comments in those markers. So if you then open the marker panel, then you can cycle through any changes there might be. They could be color coded based on maybe who's made them or what the changes, or however we look to do it. And then they can go through and obviously go straight to that point in the timeline and make the edit.
Sounds very similar to Frame.io's kind of workflow. You've made it yourself. Yeah.
Very similar.
It's internal. Tell me your secrets.
All right, let's have a look at it.
This is the Quality Assurance tab. When I select the Get Changes button, it will automatically collect the latest changes data and apply it to timecode specific markers. These markers will appear as sequence markers. They can use different colors and include comments. By using the Markers panel or shortcuts, the editor can jump from marker to marker, making the changes mentioned in the comments.
It's quick.
It's quick, it's simple, but it's clean. So yeah, it's pretty cool to know that you've been able to configure that yourself. You know, you've got these.
I want to know how you did that.
Yeah, you got these bigger companies like Frame.io and some of the other ones out there. Whipster is another one. And it seems like it's not easy or accessible to sort of figure out how to do this sort of stuff. But yeah, hopefully
I'm working on one. I'm working on a similar thing that's sort of based on, it's more for long form documentaries. So producer dailies and rushes, which will go through, take a full at 3 frames from each marker point, and then all of the notes, and assemble it in the HTML style, but then pre-publish it to, say, a back end of a website that then you send on to your producer who needs to see what footage is coming in on a daily or a weekly for long form, and then they can go through, and then you can build a website database and they can see all of the footage that you've got with all the notes that have been made without having to watch rushes effectively. So that might come in handy. We may need to talk.
Yeah. Moz is on the chat is saying you should make it a plugin and sell it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a good idea.
Yeah,
it's not a bad idea. All right, we've got one more video. We're getting pretty close to the end of our time here as well. So just give us the heads up what this final video is about.
This one's just a checklist. And I say just, but it is very simple, but it's probably one of the more powerful tools. I think all the way through, we've looked at sort of improving the consistency and the scalability of our editing house. So I created this checklist pretty early on that the editors were able to look at, the QA teams were able to look at the end of each job. And then that just helps them to maintain the consistency as we bring on more editors and as volume increases. So yeah, it's a simple checklist, and like obviously it could be customized to anyone's needs. But yeah, it just helps keep those things front of mind, which is obviously really important as you grow.
I really like this concept. Really
And
like
it's
it.
so
All right.
simple.
It's so simple, but it's super
Yeah, it's
effective.
very, very effective.
And
Yeah.
again, it's directly in Premiere. It's not like you have to open up another app.
Yes.
Yeah, another panel that sits
So
inside
cool.
of Premiere. All right, let's take a look at it.
This is the Quality Assurance tab. Editors can check and uncheck items as necessary. This helps create a consistent workflow and product. It has been a great tool, especially when training new editors.
Super short, but yeah.
That's easy.
Again, something else you could probably productize.
Yeah.
And that's something I would 100% use too.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are at time. 40 minutes doesn't go very long. Maybe we should think about making it a little bit longer. On that note, we do want feedback. So those of you who have been on the live chat, we have had about 20 people. There's a few more, but I think some of us that are running it are part of that feed as well. But we've had some pretty good response to this first episode. And like I said, we want to continue the conversation through maybe the Twitter page, which is AV CHiNWAG. AV for Adobe Video, CHiNWAG on Twitter, and start curating what it is that we could be doing in the episodes that we start to put together from here on out. I just want to thank our guests for making the time and sharing.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for having us.
Wish we could talk for longer because I could talk for hours.
I'm sure you could. Did you guys want to say anything at the end?
Yeah.
Look, only that I think there are a lot of business cases for what Andrew's built. I mean, we've built it to suit our business case. But yeah, we're confident that you guys will know, the audience will know how they might be able to use stuff, and we're open to exploring, how we can work with other people on these sorts of things. So just get in touch on that email, or admin@bwrm.com.au, or hit us up on the website, and if you want to know more, or you're interested. Andrew loves staying up late and customizing.
Offering up as IT support. And by the way, here you go.
Yeah, I think like JB and Guy, they've both seen, I did a similar sort of thing for my cricket club, which basically created all of our cricket highlights. So you can imagine the amount of footage that you go through with that. And then it was the same sort of thing, curating a load of data and then pulling that data into Premiere, and then basically spitting out your finished and highlights and play of the weeks and that sort of thing in various formats. And again, that was a click of a button, but that shows that the concept can definitely be adapted to basically whatever you can imagine, really.
Pretty soon you'll be plugging it into facial recognition, and you'll just type in the names and say, just give me 50% of Andrew and 25% of Guy, and then the rest can be all me. Thank you very much.
I am looking at that.
I think it's going to be sooner than we think.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. Cheers. Thanks for coming along. You know what? I think I'm loving this show. I think this is kind of cool. I'm loving having these discussions, and we've got more customers and other vendors that do make things that they're interested in sort of getting feedback and showing people what's available. So, I've got quite a lot of things that we could be exploring, but I think this one, I really want on the Twitter handle there, the AV CHiNWAG. Hit that one, and let's try to get some sort of a poll going as to what we focus on for next week. I think it should be about now going into team projects and starting to break it open and have a look how it all works. Jimmy, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think working out how you can, just getting people used to, like Andrew mentioned, getting them used to the idea of using the cloud-based stuff and actually having that into play so that people aren't so scared to sort of jump off and have a go, because it can be a little bit
Daunting.
sort of intimidating and daunting to begin with, but once you get your head around it, I think that'd be fantastic. And we could even do a cloud project where people are throwing edits up as we watch, which could be kind of cool.
Ooh, that could be interesting. All
Like
right,
a little
sweet.
edit competition in your own sandbox. Same 4 clips, see what you can come up with.
All right, I'll let you lead that one, Jimmy.
Okay. Thanks, man.
You can produce that one. All right, great. All right, we're gonna shut down. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks to the guests, and thanks Jimmy, and thank you Al and Jude running in the background with the comment highlights, and for Jackie as well from BWRM, who's been also doing some work on the chat there. So thanks everyone. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
Cheers, JB.
Hey.